Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing a comparison between the Leatherman Surge and the Leatherman 300. Now, right up front, I want to say that I don't feel like this is a fair comparison to some extent because there is a significant weight difference between the Leatherman Surge and the 300. So keep in mind that even though these are almost, well, the Leatherman 300 is almost a little bit longer than the Surge, there is definitely a big weight difference just with the way the Surge is. It comes in at 12.5 ounces, or 12.5 ounces rather, and the Leatherman 300 Supertool comes in at 9.6 ounces. So this is going to be significantly lighter. So when we try to pit the Leatherman Surge against different tools, for instance, the Leatherman Free P4, a lot of people say, well, this isn't near as tough as some other tools. Well, this is going to be actually 0.1 ounces heavier than the Wave. So this is essentially just the size of the Wave. So if you were to compare the Surge and the P4, it's like comparing the Surge and the Wave. They're not really in the same class. So to some extent, the Supertool 300 has some of the same issues. So we will compare it, but what multi-tool actually is closer in weight to the Surge than the 300? It is actually the OHT. So the OHT is actually going to come in at 9.9 ounces. It will be a little bit closer to the Surge, but unfortunately, this just has not, it really doesn't have that many fans, it doesn't seem like. So a lot of people seem to feel like the tools are gimmicky, that the tools are short, and that for the weight, it just doesn't have enough to offer. I mean, there's no pocket clip. I don't know, again, if you really want one, but it's just a very heavy block of metal for what it is. Unfortunately, it seems like Leatherman did not spend a whole bunch of time on it. It would have been nice to see bit exchangers, but they left it like it is. So just so you know, this actually is probably the closest competitor to the Surge as far as a weight class, but unfortunately the Surge blows it out of the water. I don't think there's really even a question. I mean, the only thing the OHT has going for it pretty much over the Surge is the pliers. Other than that, I don't think there's too much that is an advantage. All right, so comparing the Surge to the Supertool 300, when we go ahead and open these up, we realize they're pretty much going to be very similar size. They're going to have, I think, pretty much the same plier head, if not the same. It's going to be very similar. They're going to have pretty much the same replaceable cutters, and then you will see that they both have crimpers as well. Now, here is where it gets interesting because with the tools closed, the Leatherman Surge definitely has the advantage of outside opening tools. So they have some of your most sought after tools on the outside, and they even have scissors, whereas the Leatherman 300 doesn't even have a pair of scissors. Now, I feel like for some people that would be very important, and it would sort of be neat if Leatherman did something about that, but they haven't, to my knowledge, as yet. Now, when we look at the inside tools of your Leatherman 300 Supertool, we are going to see that almost from the beginning, pretty much when Leatherman designed the Supertool, or the Supertool, I think it is 200, and the Core and so forth, they're basically going to have the same tool set. So we're going to have a file, a knife, a serrated blade, a saw. We're going to have a really nice selection of screwdrivers. That's one of the Supertool's, I think, one of their great advantages. I mean, this is one amazing Phillips screwdriver. I really like that. And then, of course, you can use the bit kit with that as well, just like with the rebar, I believe. And then you've got this thinner screwdriver, you've got the can opener, you have got the wire stripper on this side, you have got the screwdriver blades in the awl as well. And then of course you've got the rulers on each side. So again, where the surge comes into play is that it has this exchangeable bit, or not bit, but blade exchanger. So again, I've heavily modified this, put a wire stripper in, but you can still put the wire in the saw, or the file and the saw rather, in this spot. And then of course you have the scissors, which is not on the Supertool. When you open up the Surge, some of the advantages is that it does have a replaceable bit driver, but you could always exchange the Phillips and put a bit driver in there. I think they're about the same width, and I've done that in some of my other multi-tools. Now, inside the Surge, we notice we've got some similar tool set. We've got the awl and then some screwdrivers that are very reminiscent of the Supertool as well. So the main differences again are, instead of the nice long Phillips, we're going to have a replaceable screwdriver bits, and then the blade exchanger and the scissors. So those are going to be some of the main pluses of the Surge, and that you can access the tools outside. So the Supertool 300 definitely has some advantages in that it is definitely lighter. This is going to also be cheaper. So I think right now it's around $30 cheaper or so. So it's going to be a lot more affordable, and it just has more of the old style feel to it. It has that more traditional feel, and you look at these massive handles, and that's pretty confidence inspiring. I mean, this tool looks like it is ready to do some serious work, and for years and years to come. I think the Supertool is an amazing tool. I think it truly is. So I think it ultimately comes down to taste, as we talked about in the SOG Power Access Assist. So likewise with the Supertool, there are going to be many that would prefer the cheaper price. They'll prefer the cheaper options, and this tool set will be perfect for them. And again, remember that Phillips driver, you can use the bit kit on it. Now, Leatherman does have several other versions of the Supertool 300 that I think put it a step closer to the Surge. So what I'm thinking about especially is the Supertool EOD. Now, I do not have that version. I would like to get that version in the future. And what that version does is it actually adds a metal saw where you can actually replace the blades. Now, you can't use the file. I think it's the exchanger's too thin to use the Surge's file and its saw, but you can use regular T-shank metal saw blades, and they fit in there. So that's one of the big advantages of the EOD. And then it also has some different style cutters that some people say are a lot better. And then of course it has that crimper, and then it has the cap tool that's you can take off and put back on, I think the C4 cap tool. And so it has several differences, and then it also has the adapter where you can put your cleaning rod in as well. Now the other Leatherman 300 version is going to be the 300M, and recently I've been looking around, and most of these versions or some of these versions, one of them I think is only available on Leatherman's website. So the 300M actually does have a bit exchanger for the screwdriver instead of the Phillips. And then the other thing it has is a pry tool. So that is pretty neat, almost like the Gerber center drive. So it adds some very unique tools to the Leatherman 300 Supertool. So both of those versions add some different tools, some different capability. So if you are looking at the Leatherman 300, don't just look at the Supertool, but be aware that there are two other versions that add some extra tools, and that might be something that you'd be interested in. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in your thoughts below what you think. Do you like the Leatherman 300 better, or is the Surge still king in your eyes?